Hi, Janet. Lovely to be here. I currently live in Mauritius. I've been here 10 years. Interestingly, that's obviously how I met your recovery coach, Lynette. We hooked up here. But my husband's Mauritian. I'm originally from the UK, and we've got two children. One's now 18, so an adult. The other one's nearly 16. And we decided to move from the UK to be near a family and for basic quality lifestyle and stuff while our kids were growing up. So we came here. Prior to that, when I was in the UK, we were based in a place called Lincoln. I was a solicitor. And before I was a solicitor, I was a nurse in the NHS in Sheffield, where I actually did nursing degree and qualified and worked there in respiratory medicine and acute medical admissions. And I did my nursing and then thought after 2 years, it's then going back 20 years, it was completely crazy. The NHS was falling apart even then. I don't think what it would be like to work in now. And I thought, I can't continue doing this into old age. It's going to be backbreaking because you have staff shortages and things like that. You're lugging and tugging patients that you should be putting on a hoist, and it just didn't work. So I thought, I can't be doing this until retirement. And at the end of my nursing degree was a very interesting part about duty of care and negligence, which I found fascinating. So I thought, I'll do a law degree. So I basically did a master's in law and then practiced as a solicitor for a couple of years, then took a break to have the kids. And then we moved to Mauritius. So I haven't officially worked here. It's quite hard to work here, and certainly pay is very low. And it's quite hard to get a, a a job that would suit what I want to do in functional health. So I'm starting up on my own, really.
So tell us a little bit about functional medicine. What is it?
So functional medicine differs to conventional medicine in that conventional medicine is disease management. It's treatment of functional medicine or lifestyle medicine. It's also known as holistic medicine. It looks at the root cause of disease and illness. So if you were to go to a doctor, a conventional doctor with a rash or something like that, it's unlikely that a conventional doctor would ask you, what are you eating? What are your stress levels like? Have you had any allergy testings? Have you been taking antibiotics recently? It's likely that they would look at the rash, give you a cream for the rash, and basically tell you to go away, and it will be a steroid kind of cream. And then you come back, and the rash may have abated for a short period of time, but it's not got to the root cause of what's actually going on. Whereas holistic medicine, functional medicine, looks at the root cause of disease and illness and aims to start from there. And it also tries to catch disease and illness before it becomes a disease. So conventional medicine, you go to them when you are sick. Functional medicine, you are encouraged to work on your health so you don't develop chronic disease and illness, so it doesn't become a long-term problem. So ultimately, you become the architect of your own health, and you don't need to go and see doctors and frequently unless it really is something that requires a doctor's intervention.
Awesome. And how does homeopathy fit in with that?
I'm not really familiar with homeopathy in terms of a practice. I know that all those modalities look at the root cause of illness and disease, and that's certainly what functional medicine does. I think homeopathy tends to be, I can't speak to it because I don't know it particularly, but I think homeopathy tends to be more what doesn't kill you will cure you. So they would tend to use the same
Yeah.
things in a diluted form. That's not necessarily what functional medicine does. Use homeopathy and other modalities, but it it does have the medical part as well, of course. So it does have to look back over history. It does have to look back over antibiotic uses, latent infections, diet, sleep, exercise, stress. So it looks at a whole gamut thing, genetics, and all of that. So there are differences, but they often are used in conjunction with each other in certain practices too.
Yeah, yeah. I interviewed a homeopath recently. That's the only reason I know a little bit about it. And I remember she said that it triggers the self-healing mechanisms of our body. So I thought
Mm.
that was quite interesting.
Mm.
Awesome. And when did you first start getting interested in functional medicine? How many
I would
years ago?
say really, I've been interested really since I gave up drinking 5 years ago. I would say that everything came off the back of that. But really getting interested in health and wellness started around 4 or 5 years ago but it really ramped up about 3 years ago, I would say. And there was a diagnosis of depression within the family that with a close family member, that I just thought, this doesn't sound right. They went to the doctor, they were diagnosed with depression, they were given an antidepressant, and I was just not content to leave it at that because it didn't fit in with the rest of this person's character. And it just seemed, oh, is that it? You're depressed, but why? And then I stumbled across a book called The Ultra Solution by Dr. Mark Hyman, and he calls himself the accidental psychiatrist. And he basically says that when he heals someone's gut and sorts out the inflammation, the cognitive function improves, the depression goes away, the anxiety goes away. And having been a nurse, and I'm also married to a doctor, and both of us didn't have that knowledge. And I was like, I read the book and I literally was sat in bed with my eyes wide open. And I passed it to my husband and I was like, you have to read this. This is unbelievable. This turns everything on its face. And there was a quote in there that said, depression is not a Prozac deficiency. And it really stood out to me because I have mental health illness in the family. My mum was diagnosed with depression and alcoholism. And I thought, gosh, if I'd have known, or she'd have had the information, maybe she wouldn't have gone down the route that she went down. Maybe she'd have had a much better quality of life. And it really got me thinking. So that really started everything. I read that book, and then I approached functional medicine in the same way that I approached sobriety. As in, when I started reading around giving up drinking, when I made the decision to stop, it was literally like my eyes were open when I read Annie Grace's This Naked Mind, like I know everyone in this sober community covered. When I read it, I was like, what? I don't enjoy Sauvignon Blanc? What? I don't need it to read. It was such an eye-popping, eye-opening moment. And I wanted to scream out, we've been conned. It's a big con. And that's exactly how I felt when I found out about functional medicine. Having been in the conventional paradigm, I suddenly thought, this is a big con. It's big pharma, it's big agriculture. And I've been very naive to all of that. And I've been in the medical system and I never questioned any of it. I never questioned, why is that patient coming back time and time again? Why are their problems not resolved? And all of a sudden, the Ultramind solution opened my eyes in the same way that Annie Grace's This Naked Mind opened my eyes. And it was like, oh, there's no going back now. I've got to follow this through.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think even to this day, from what I know, medical schools, they don't talk much about alcohol and the harm that it does to our bodies. So some doctors genuinely don't know. And others drink a lot themselves.
And no, absolutely. They really do. And when we recently went back, as I said to you before we started recording, we went back for my husband's medical reunion, which we had a lot of fun with. And functional medicine is slowly starting to make its way through to mainstream. I think there's a saying, no one drunk, you know that you drink too much if you drink more than your doctor. That used to be a famous saying in the UK.
So talk to us about your drinking, Laura, your drinking story, and why you decided to stop.
I stopped, it was 5 years ago when the UK were in the quarterfinal of the World Cup in Russia. And we had a huge party at ours. And the following day I woke up and I was like, enough, I'm tired. But I had no decision to permanently stop. So I thought I'll stop for a month. I'll quit for a month, which was a long period of time for me at the time because I didn't drink daily, but I definitely drank three days a week, 4 days a week tops. But still, I look forward to those days. I look forward to Friday night. I look forward to the wine, etc. So that was still a big thing to do the months. And I did it with reference to 1 year, no beer, all those things. And I white knuckled it through. But because I had so much more time on my hands, because obviously not drinking frees up time, I started reading, which is what I do when I find something that I want to do, I soak myself in it and I read myself into oblivion. So I picked up Annie Grace's This Naked Mind. And I thought, oh, what's this? And I read it and I thought, oh, once read, you can't unread. And I read it basically 3 times. And I was like, I can't go back to drinking. I couldn't, not when I'd read what I'd read and how it's flipped everything on its head about all my belief systems around drinking. So I basically thought about it and really gave it a lot of thought. And I just thought, I can't go back to drinking after reading that. And I knew intuitively that I didn't want to. I knew that intuitively if I'd have continued, there could have been problems. My mum's an alcoholic that's now in a home and has lost everything. So I always drank with that monkey on my shoulder watching, which was a gift in many ways, because otherwise I might have been a lot more. I'm not saying that I was a sensible drinker. I wasn't. There were many times that I was a very careless drinker, but I would always wake up in the morning and go, oh, I've got to watch this, or I need to be aware. It just took me time to get there. And so after reading that book, and I just thought, it was almost like it gave me permission, because I obviously went straight to the Can I Moderate chapter, which I think most people do. I launched straight into the Can I Moderate. Didn't start with any of the others. Can I Moderate? And I was like, the very fact I'm opening this page first told me, I knew it instinctively that I couldn't. But then when she said the very fact that you're opening this page indicates that you've got an issue, you've got a problem. And then, like she rightly said, the bandwidth that it took up, thinking about how I would make my drinking okay, so that I just thought, it's too much effort. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
So it was almost like a lifeline when I read that. And I just thought, I've got to throw myself into this non-drinking lifestyle in the same way that I threw myself into my drinking lifestyle. I've just got to approach it with the same level of gusto and excitement, and look at it from the point of view that not what am I missing out, but literally what am I gaining? And I did. I managed to do it. And I feel very lucky. It wasn't horrendously difficult, because I think I'd hit my version of I've had enough. I'd really hit that. And I was like, there's got to be more to life than this.
Yeah, there is a gift in having that moment, I think, because many people just drink through that moment.
Yeah.
So bearing in mind that you're a great fan of Annie Grace, as I am, what limiting beliefs were you holding about alcohol?
I think I know it sounds really good. I genuinely believed I liked the taste. I could have sworn blind that Sauvignon Blanc was one of the nicest tasting beverages in the world. I really believed that. Now I look, definitely the fun element. Life won't be as colorful without it. How am I ever going to be able to, I don't know, go to a dinner party and laugh in the same way that I did, engage in conversations in the same way that I engaged? It was more those things. I didn't feel the need to have it socially, because actually that bothered me. Drinking out bothered me less than it was missing having red wine on a slightly cooler evening. You don't get many of those in Mauritius, but a slightly cooler evening in Mauritius on my own. I liked that. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed cooking whilst I was having a glass of wine. I enjoyed those kind of rituals. And they were the ones that I thought, oh, crikey. I used to think that they were the healthy way. I used to think my way of drinking was healthier. I didn't realize it was the worst way to drink when you're on your own and when you're not. It's not that I could give or take it when I was out. I wanted to drink, but I would happily have been the designated driver without kicking up too much of a fuss. But I wanted that wine at home. I enjoyed that wine at home. I enjoyed the whole ritual around relaxing, in air quotes, and chilling out and having me time. I think that me time was a big part of it as well. But obviously it was robbing me of any quality time at all.
And how did you manage to overturn those limiting beliefs?
By reading. I read so much. I read every book on alcohol that I could get my hands on. So I tackled it like it was a full-time job. And I remember saying to my husband at the time, for the first two and a bit months, I was like, I don't want to go out. Just leave me to my own devices. I just need to read. And he totally respected it. And he then joined me 3 months down the line, actually. So we both no longer drink. It's been wonderful. But I was like, just leave me. I need to absorb everything. And then I got to that point where I read this quote, and it basically said, never question the decision.
Yeah.
And I was tempted to almost get it tattooed on my arm, because it was like N2QD, never question the decision. And I need quick things to go to like that. I don't need to overanalyze it. I want this drink. Why do I want this drink? I just needed something in that moment to make me just go, no, you're not having it. And it was never question the decision.
Yeah.
Because I've done all the work leading up to that. I
Yeah.
knew the decision to not drink was absolutely essential for me going forward. It was the only way. And I didn't want to spend hours going, oh gosh, should I have that? Shouldn't I? So that never question the decision was there straight. Every time I thought about it, right, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Love it. Talk to us about the benefits. 5 years.
Oh, endless. And they continue to be absolutely endless. So it's also massively helped that my husband has done it. So we're on this journey together, and again, he's very lucky in the sense that he's one of those He smoked, he stopped overnight. Same as me. I also used to smoke. I stopped overnight 25 years ago. So we both got that kind of mentality, which has served us very well in that sense. And it's just meant that my fitness levels have gone where I was at 40 versus where I'm going to be next year is I look different. I feel different. I've become energized. I've done courses. I've ended up qualifying as a functional medical health coach. Oh, the irony. If somebody had told me 7, 8 years ago when I was enjoying drinking more that I would eventually be a functional medical health coach, I've laughed in their face. So everything has become possible on the back of that. And just simplicity, just reading countless amounts of books and having that sort of growth mindset and being able to share that. And my relationships with people, the people that were the drinking buddies, who I love very dearly, but they've been parked to one side, if you like, and I've developed other relationships and connections with people that really speak to me in many other ways. So it's limitless, I think, when you give up alcohol, even if you don't go on to do courses or anything like that, your life changes in so many ways. And also the sense of pride and accomplishment that you've done it. I always think no one can take that away from me. I have done what the vast majority of the population do not do. So that gives me a real added sense of achievement. And I think people, not that I'm recommending people drink, but people who have never drunk, it's wonderful, good for them. But to have drunk and seen all that side, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then to come out of it and to actually reflect on that, you feel really empowered and really strong. And it's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. I'm sure you've read Laura McCowan's book, We Are the Luckiest.
Yeah.
And I think sobriety is a gift that keeps on giving, really. And it's a superpower. As you say, if we've done this, we can do anything. That's the feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
So as a health coach, do you recommend to your clients that they quit drinking if they're a drinker?
Health coaching doesn't quite work like that. What I do point out when a client initially comes depends on whether I know that person in advance or not. But if it's a brand new client, we tend to go through, I find out first what they are looking for out of health coaching. And then I tend to do there's a wheel of life thing that I give them that basically has them pick out what's most important to them in their life. And then they rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 as to where they are with that. So they say families are most important, and 1 is, not really making time for it, and 10 is totally making time for family. They then plot it on a kind of circle, and then they've got a visual to see if their energy is going in the right direction. Now, say they put down health, and then we start to explore around health, and we work on the 4 pillars of health, which will be diet, sleep, exercise, and stress. And we look at that, and then it comes to light. We talk about their sleeping, we talk about their eating, and then they start talking about their drinking. Then my job really is to slowly shine a light on maybe what they're not looking at. So I wouldn't necessarily go in and say, you're drinking too much. But if I find out that there's quite a lot of alcohol there, I do let people know in a totally non-judgmental way that it's really hard to nail the 4 pillars of health, which lead to good health, if you are heavily dependent on alcohol. It's your sleep will without a doubt be disrupted. Your gut will not be absorbing anywhere near the amount of nutrients that you're putting in. And it's arguable that you won't be putting in the good nutrients because heavy drinkers often don't prioritize that. You won't be exercising as well because you'll be drinking, so it's harder. And your stress will be high because they all work hand in hand. So those 4 pillars of health are very hard to work on if you're dependent. Now, I'm not saying that's the same if you're having a glass of red wine with a meal and with your family. It's different levels of drinking, but that has to be addressed really before the other things slot into place.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about sugar, because so many drinkers get sugar cravings when they quit because there's so much sugar in alcohol, obviously. What do you recommend for them? We tend to say, I don't know if this is the best advice, but we tend to say, don't worry too much about what you're eating in those early days. Just focus on not drinking. Don't question the decision. And I interviewed, she's a natural health expert who's written books, Mary Ann Shearer, she's South African. And she recommends eating fresh fruit rather than eating sweets. And I just wondered what your recommendations for dealing with those sugar cravings would be in the early days of sobriety.
Yeah, if I'd have known what I know now when I'd have given up, I would have done it differently, because I went onto a full-blown sugar addiction when I stopped drinking. I was already bad with sugar, without a doubt. From childhood, I was very bad. So it was lots of issues that I was dealing with. But I knew that I needed to get a handle on it. But just like you do also advise your clients, the only bandwidth I had at the time was just to focus on getting alcohol out. I couldn't I couldn't look at anything else. But what I wish I had have realized is that if I'd have avoided junk food, I was also eating lots of junk, lots of processed, lots of boxed foods, just because I needed something in my mouth I needed to focus on something else other than alcohol. If I'd have known that good quality proteins are really satiating, are really filling, and help with blood sugar regulation, if I'd have fresh fruit, for example, but I wasn't going to those, I was going to sugar, I was going to naughty treats. Good fats, if I'd have realized that actually bulking up on good fats, good olive oil, good dressings for my salad, Dijon mustard, olive oil, coconut oil, those good fats. And instead, I basically stopped drinking, developed a full-on sugar addiction, then would not eat properly because I thought, oh my gosh, I've just had 3 Mars bars and I've just binged out on Pringles. And so then I wouldn't eat because I thought I've just eaten all those calories. And it just became a vicious cycle of me really not fueling my body with the right stuff, and therefore I didn't succumb to the alcohol, but it certainly took longer for me to feel better. I should have felt better a lot earlier than I did, because I was just replacing it with sugar. But so there are small hacks you can make. There are small hacks. Like that lady said, eat fresh fruit if you're going to go for sugary things. Really reduce things like bread, if you can, bread and bread-related products and biscuits and things like that, and try to concentrate more on whole foods. But I would say don't skim on good food. Start messing around with, oh, I can't eat too much now, I can't eat whatever. Just have good quality meals with real food, like fruit, like vegetables, like good quality fish, good quality meat, good quality oils, things like that. Concentrate on real food to build up your microbiome, the bacteria in your gut, which controls so much. So build those things up and try to steer away from sugar, bread-related products, and things that can give you that sugar spike.
And how long did you struggle with your sugar addiction, and how did you kick that one?
2 years. So
Wow.
yeah, I did. So I wouldn't recommend doing it the way I did it. But at the time, there was no other way. That was all I knew. And that was my whole mindset was just, I have to stop drinking. I don't want to drink again. So I focused on that. I then really went heavily into sugar. I then messed around a bit. I did keto for 7 months, where sugar's pulled out and, no carbs, low carbs. But what I hadn't done was address the underlying issue of how I was eating, which basically wasn't regular, wasn't well, wasn't good quality food. And that's how I then found functional. I did a nutrition course with the Food Matters Institute 2 years ago. I learned a lot from that, and then went on and did my functional medical health coaching course with the Kresser Institute. Chris Kresser is a functional doctor in the US. And that's when I really started to learn basically just how to eat well, how to nourish your body, how to look after it from the inside. And the rest has been history. The weight's dropped off. I feel I don't have afternoon slump, nothing. And it's just because my blood sugar's regulated.
Yeah.
I eat well and I eat whole foods. I don't eat junk. I avoid sugar, gluten, and I just eat well, but I eat very well. I don't look at my portion sizes or anything like that anymore. I used to obsess over things like that. I don't. I just eat well and I eat when I'm hungry.
Yeah, that's great advice, Laura. I was always on a diet while I was drinking, always. Remember, in my 20s, I used to live on cigarettes and white wine, basically. But my eating improved a little bit. I was always into the organic, but always drinking that bottle of wine every day and struggling to keep my weight down. But when I gave up drinking, nothing much happened for a few months. But after about 6 or 7 months, the extra, it wasn't a huge amount, maybe 2-3 kilos dissolve practically overnight. And these days I can eat whatever I want. And like you, I never look at portion size. So my theory is that our metabolism it doesn't work properly when we drink too much. And when we get healthy again, it starts working like it should work.
Yeah, because alcohol it hugely impacts your gut bacteria, and that gut bacteria impacts how you digest food, it's weight management, it's everything, it's cognitive function, it's depression, it's anxiety. And when you're drinking, it's bleach. It's like pouring bleach down your gullet, basically, and it wipes it clean of stuff like. So you're starting again, you're reseeding that gut, which then in turn controls and regulates your metabolism and everything. Similar to you, I eat. I'm not frightened of food at all. I love food. I enjoy it. I just eat the right food now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting what they're finding out about the microbiome, isn't it? I've just sent off for a test, so can't wait to see what they say about mine.
They do it. They're doing that in the UK, the 𝐬𝐻 trial that people can sign up for.
Yeah.
It's a personalized thing where you can basically look at your microbiome. They take a sample of it, tell you what 15 strains are in it and how you should eat to upregulate those particular species. So personalized medicine on your phone.
Yeah, it's great. So when we quit drinking, we can turn our attention, can't we, to healing our minds and our bodies. And I was wondering if seeing a functional health coach like yourself is a good starting point for that.
I think it can definitely complement it. It really can. It depends on where you are with your drinking, in the sense that if you are really struggling, and obviously put everything into your recovery with it, without a doubt. But I think seeing someone like me or a functional health coach can really help ease the transition into a non-drinking or a lesser drinking lifestyle. And like I say, if I'd have known what I know now, it would have made those early years much easier. Even though I attacked them with gusto and I was excited, I was very passionate about it. But I think, goodness me, I definitely didn't need to go through another 2-year sugar addiction and then an 8-month keto diet whilst I wasn't really knowing what I was doing. I was just, I must stop sugar now. I must stop. So I wish I'd have had that information. I wish somebody had helped with that, because health coaching really is about behavioral change. It's a little bit about education, but it's really about creating the behavioral change around the 4 pillars of health, around diet, exercise, sleep, and stress reduction. Broadly, people do know what to do. They know they need to exercise more. They know they need to drink less. They know they need to get better nutrients in and maybe de-stress a little. But putting it into action is another thing. And that's really where health coaching comes in. It's creating and helping you create the behavioral change to create the habit that will become a lifelong habit. And that's really where I work with people.
Yeah.
So,
and I think
yes.
I used to be an executive coach, and I think just like any kind of coaching, the fact that you're going back to that person again and again to review your progress and plan the next stage, it's so powerful.
Yes. And focusing on when people are going right. People focus so much on what they're not doing, but they don't focus on where they are going well. And I think women in particular are guilty of that, of always looking, I should have exercised 3 times this week and I only managed it once. But you managed it once, and it's focusing on what they're doing and capitalizing on that, not beating yourself up for what you're not doing. Just people who are on the Tribe Sober website and who've signed up, just the very fact that they are addressing, looking at it, even if they're not doing anything about it, they're starting the groundwork. That's huge. That's absolutely huge, just to start that groundwork, to start to acknowledge, I think drinking could be an issue for me. And that in and of itself is so much further along than many people get. So it's really
that's the biggest step. That's what I say to people, that just reaching out for help and doing something like signing up is the hardest step. And then I say to people, for the first few weeks, just listen and learn. And don't feel you have to comment on the groups. Just read what other people are saying, and gradually you'll feel excited about the change rather than terrified, and you'll want to start trying. So I've got a question here that one of our members sent. And she says, what would be a helpful protocol for people to adopt to support their brain and body when ditching the drink, especially in the first 2 weeks, months, 3 months, etc.? How can they improve their mood and energy?
Yes, I would say it's pretty much similar to what I said earlier, that really you want to get your blood sugar regulated, because crossover sugar addiction, when people reduce or stop alcohol, is massive. And alcohol is sugar. From the neck downwards, that's how your body processes it, if you like. It's a sugar hit. So I would definitely say try to limit processed food. Try to limit junk food, stuff that comes in a box. If you have to scan it at the supermarket, obviously you have to scan things like cauliflower that's in a pack. But if you actually have to scan it and it's in a box and it's got more than 3 ingredients in it, be wary of it. And really, if you can, really reduce your sugar intake and really reduce your gluten intake. Now, gluten is a protein that's found in bread, cakes, biscuits, crackers, pasta. Try and reduce it, because again, it's a carbohydrate, but it's not a quality carbohydrate. So a carbohydrate like potatoes or sweet potatoes or root vegetables are wonderful. But a carbohydrate like bread, it's sugar. It's basically sugar to your body. If you start eating lots of bread or lots and lots of pasta, you will start having blood sugar dips, particularly if you eat it alone. If you're to have a slice of, I don't know, sourdough, but you're to layer it with avocado and 2 eggs, that's very different to just having a slice of toast and jam, for example. So try and get your blood sugar regulated by reducing sugar, reducing bread and pasta and things like that, and try and put in whole foods. So fish, I mean, tinned fish as well, sardines, but try and put in whole foods, rich in omega-3s, which are great for your brain health, quality meat if you can get it, sweet potatoes, root vegetables, with olive oil, roasted, pan roasted, or shepherd's pie, things like that. Try and get those foods in. Good fats, so good olive oils with your salad dressings and stuff. You can cook with coconut oil. You can make homemade granolas with lots of nuts and seeds and bake them with coconut oil and cinnamon. That's my breakfast. Good quality dairy, Greek yogurts and stuff like that can be okay in moderation. But concentrate basically on real food. Plenty of water and herbal teas to support your detoxification. But basically by eating real food, and it really is much simpler than people realize, by eating real food, you'll start to recalibrate all those other things. And if you're pulling out the alcohol, you'll start to sleep better. You'll start to have less blood sugar dips, which mean that you won't be waking up in the middle of the night. You won't be feeling all cold and clammy mid-afternoon. You won't be having a slump. So you'll have more energy. You'll have more energy to be able to exercise and just put in little things like that. I would also, so that's the food element. I would also recommend getting out in nature as much as possible. If you can, if you have a dog, walk your dog, try and increase your steps. If you're not already exercising, it's a great way to build up exercise by getting out and trying to reach up to 10,000 steps a day. And being outdoors is wonderful. And it certainly resets your circadian clock that helps with your sleep. Things like first thing in the morning, try not to go and put your light on. Try and open your curtains and get outside into natural light if it is light. Because again, that stimulates the melatonin cortisol production, which helps with your sleep when you go to bed at night. So that's another hack. And try, if you are coming off booze, your sleep should slowly start to improve, and really try to maximize your time in bed and your time sleeping. I'm not saying lay in bed if you can't sleep at all. That's not necessarily great. Get up and read or whatever, but try and maximize your sleep, because that also resets everything. So if you look at your food, then really informs the other things you do. Just like when you look at your alcohol and you address that, that then also informs how you're going to show up with sleep, with stress reduction, and with your exercise levels. So just quality, and don't focus on punishing yourself. Focus on nourishing yourself with the best food that you can get. That's really what I would say. What you
Thank
spent
you.
on that wine, spend it on some really good quality food.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your take on coffee?
It depends. Some people have got a genetic predisposition that means that they can't detoxify coffee very well. I'm very good at metabolizing caffeine. However, I do know that I have to pull it back. And when I stopped drinking, I definitely noticed when I was drinking too much coffee, I really tried to scale it back to 1 to 2 a day because it does increase your adrenaline and your cortisol. Even if you do process it well, even if you do have a good genetic predisposition to take coffee, it still raises adrenaline levels and cortisol levels, which you want to keep low whilst you're reducing your alcohol. So I would suggest a good quality cup, but I probably wouldn't do more than one, and I would try and have it before midday, just while you're coming out of it.
Yeah.
But there's lots of other decaf alternatives now and good quality ones, particularly in South Africa. There's some wonderful decaf alternatives that you can get.
Fabulous. Anything else that we haven't talked about that you think we should mention, Laura?
I think really being compassionate with yourself and being gentle on yourself is really important because you're already, if you're addressing your alcohol, you're already coming in with a certain amount of, oh God, have I got to this stage where I've got to? So you're already at a point of feeling vulnerable, I think, and feeling a bit overwhelmed. So I would say go easy with yourself and small steps. That's what coaching's all about, taking small steps. So if you've gone from absolutely, I don't know, no fruit and veg in your diet, then just add in a portion. Try and add in a portion 1 week. So add in broccoli with the meal, or try and sprinkle a few nuts on cereal. Just slowly start to add things in. You don't have to attack it full on if it feels overwhelming. Just slowly start to build up good eating habits, for example. So if you don't eat very much fruit, try and add in an extra portion of fruit a day and start to go from there, because otherwise it can all feel a bit too much, and you can then just go back to square one. If you just take it slowly and gently, small steps, end up leading to big changes.
It's about gradually replacing that drinking habit with healthy habits, isn't it?
Yeah. And self-love and self-care, really. See food as the gateway to you really looking after yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. What we eat.
Yeah.
So how can people get in touch with you, Laura? I presume you do Zoom consults?
Yes, I do Zoom consults. I am waiting for a website. It will be a couple of months in the making, so I don't have one at the moment. I have an email address. Do I give that to you now, or shall you put it in the show?
Yes. Why don't you spell it? Because your second name is a little bit tricky.
Yeah. Okay, so it's lauragadjadar@hotmail.co.uk, which is LauraGujadhur@hotmail.co.uk. And I also respond to WhatsApp messages as well. And my number is 2305 867 5482.